Welcome back to another episode of the Gun Collective News. I'm John Patton, and this is the year that we will hopefully hit 400,000 subscribers. And if you are not subscribed yet on YouTube, hit that button and help us get there. We may do something special when we do. Otherwise, I really appreciate all the support from you guys. Now, the news. We'll kick this year off with the background check numbers from all of 2024. January 24 was 2.2 million. Feb was 2.4, March 2.6, April 2.37, May 2.1, June just over 2 mil, July 2.1, August 2.25, September 2.16, October 2.37, November just shy of 2.6, and December was surprisingly the highest month for the entire year, which is very abnormal, at 2.75 million background checks. That gives us a total of just under 28.1 million background checks for the year. This marks the lowest year since 2020, and I believe just under 2019 numbers as well, which was almost 40 million back then, and that puts us kind of right on 2019-ish numbers, a little over 2018. This is an average of 2.3 million checks per month for the year. Now, as always, this is not a one-to-one ratio for guns sold because of several reasons, but it is a trend indicator that the industry is on a normalizing cycle, and that could be a good thing from where I'm sitting. Perhaps we'll see, I don't know, actual innovation and companies returning to the idea of giving a shit about their customers. It's a long shot, but we can dream, right? Moving on from there, we have to acknowledge that Steve Dettelbach has resigned as head of the ATF. This is, of course, related, probably, to the incoming president and Dettelbach being an absolute disaster of a leader for that group. Good riddance, right? If you want a slightly deeper dive on this, Jared from Guns and Gadgets has a video on it, and that will be linked in the description. Now, who is going to replace this guy as head of ATF? That's sort of up in the air. And I know a lot of us would like to see Brandon Herrera get the job, but I'm skeptical of that happening at this point. Time will tell. I don't know. Time reveals all, right? In other industry news, Colt has won yet another Army contract, this time for the M4A1 rifle, and the value of said contract is about $12.4 million. We have debated the insanity that is Colt's history of bankruptcy on this show before, but with Colt CZ Group being a thing now, this could have larger implications for all the brands sort of associated with that group. Money makes things happen, and perhaps we'll see some interesting stuff with that influx of money. Or they'll waste it all again. 50-50 shot, am I right? And I gotta give it to Smith & Wesson. I gotta give them their flowers this week. This is the first time I can recall them sort of openly supporting efforts to protect the 2A. They partnered with the Firearms Research Center, that is a part of the University of Wyoming, for a competition called the 2A Research and Writing Competition. All of the potential topics, there are 3 of them, all of them revolve around the historic Bruin decision. Now, keep in mind that this is only open to current law students, so you keyboard warriors out there, calm your tits. It's not for you. There are monetary prizes on the line, which is neat, and hopefully that could inspire some more well-educated folks to get involved in the 2A fight. This will be linked in the description as well. And while you're thinking about what you would do with that prize money, let me tell you about this week's sponsor, EXS Sites. I've been wanting to work with a company like XS for a long time. They offer sighting solutions for all kinds of brands out there, and a bunch of them are meant to be fast while keeping you accurate. For example, I got these 3-dot sights on the Desert Eagle, the Co-Witness style on the Masada Slim, and another more different set on this VP9 build. And since you watch TGC, they set you guys up with a big discount. If you use our code TGC at exssites.com, you'll save 20%. That's massive. Big thanks to EXS Sites for sponsoring this week's video. Now, how's about some more news? This time it's about ammo. Nosler has released a new line of ammo called Whitetail Country. I said that with a southern accent because I feel like that's in the name. Essentially, it's pretty simple. You have 2 bullet designs. The bottleneck cartridges will get what they call a solid base projectile, which is just more copper in the back end, which will be a little bit lighter probably, and more rigid in the rear, sort of using that rigidity to carry the weight deeper into the target, penetration, etc. Then you have the straight wall cartridges getting a bullet that is more of a basic soft point, and because it's mostly lead core, the idea will be using the heavierness of it, the weight, to get the penetration. MSRP on these is between $35 and $40 a box, and it'll come in most of the popular whitetail hunting cartridges like 6.5, 270, 30-06, 30-30, 45-70, among others. It seems like a pretty basic setup to me overall, which makes me wonder why it exists. They probably already had something really similar in the line. I don't know. It seems like a marketing play more than an actual new product thing, but whatever. Federal released the 7mm backcountry today. They are making some absolutely wild claims like it's the most advanced 7mm cartridge ever, and that it will reinvent ammo as we know it. Yes, they actually said that. They've made some outlandish claims in the past, like with 224 Valkyrie, and that was an absolute show. And then 30 Super Carry went nowhere, and you don't see anything about 327 Federal anymore, right? Let's look at the basics here. On launch, bullets will be ranging from 155 grain up to 195 grain, with the 155 leaving the barrel at 3150 feet per second out of a 20-inch barrel, which is screaming fast. If we look at the mid-level 175 grain load out of the same length barrel, it's doing 2975 feet per second. Still pretty damn fast. By comparison, the 7 PRC is said to do 3,000 feet per second out of a 24-inch barrel, where the previous backcountry 175 load is slated to hit 125 feet per second faster out of the same length barrel. Now, they are likely accomplishing this because they're not using standard brass cases. They're using something they call peak alloy case technology. This is a steel alloy that they claim is reloadable using their processes, whatever that means, and this allows them, with that steel case, to increase pressures, or so they claim. Now, as with every new cartridge, it requires guns to exist chambered for them, and Federal lists a bunch of brands like Savage, Gunworks, Seekins, Christensen, Proof, Weatherby, and Geisley, among others, to be ready for this on launch. I'll say this much. If the claims hold up, and if it's doing well out of a handy 20-inch hunting rifle, and is accurate and does rip down range, it could be pretty rad. But 125 feet per second is not really a big difference, and 7 PRC has had a bunch more time to soak into the market, so it's unclear on whether this will actually take off. Federal, if you're watching, I'm happy to put this to an unbiased test and report my findings to this audience. And guys out there watching, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Let it rip down in the comments. Moving on from there, Henry announced that they are finally shipping their Supreme rifles. For those that aren't up to speed, this is a lever action that takes AR mags and will be chambered in 5.56 or 300 blackout and come with a threaded barrel. It's a classic style gun with a modern feeding device, and I am not mad about that. MSRP is $1,300, which is not cheap, and hopefully because of that, these are super accurate to sort of make up for that. I don't know. In new gun news, HK released a new version of the VP9. Now, this gun was originally introduced in 2014 and was apparently in development for a few years prior to that. So saying that it's sort of long in the tooth would be accurate. It's over 10 years old as a whole, and heck, I've been carrying a VP9 for at least 5 years. This new version doesn't look a ton different, but there are several upgrades they've made over the old version. There's now a small textured spot sort of behind the pick rail for your thumb placement. Okay, it probably doesn't do anything, but all right, they rarely do, unless it's an actual gas pedal. The trigger has been improved by adding a nickel Teflon coating, and they say that'll make it smoother and cleaner. Cool, we like that. There's also now a flared magwell. It's like a little tiny guy, as well as more serrations on the front of the slide. That's neat. And slightly different magazine base plates. So overall, it's kind of quality of life improvements. It's also optic cut, but they had that on the previous version. And the back straps now allow you to adjust the length of pull on the gun, which was not the case before. Sort of just adjusted the grip angle. So now you have the top adding some thickness. Cool, okay. At launch, there will be two versions available. The full size with a 4.5-inch barrel and slightly longer grip for 17 round mags, as well as the compact with a 4-inch barrel and slightly shorter than that other one grip. This K or compact version is a good like mid-size option. Think Glock 19, that's the one everybody compares to. And they didn't have that before. You'll be able to get it with or without a Wesson optic made specifically for the VP9, which is neat. And the MSRP is set at $979 for the optic not included versions and $1319 for the optic being mounted on the gun. Now, I've been in search of something new to carry, and we're doing a review right now of the CC9, but this compact version kind of has my interest for potential carry gun. The price is high for sure. Like, I know you guys are going to say that. I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking besides that down in the comments. Moving on from there, something even more expensive. Dear God. Logo Arms, a company most well known for their pistol called the Alien, has released a new version of that pistol called the Alien Remis. This is a new compact version of the gun with some neat features. First, it still has that really low bore axis that is unlike any other gun currently being produced. It is so freaking low. But they've now got a feature on it called push to rack, which allows you to push a button on top and then rack the gun using the optic, even though while you're shooting, that optic is fixed. That's neat. There's now a slide-mounted manual safety. Okay. It has 15 round mags and it has a modular grip. The gun weighs 29 ounces, which is about 6 ounces heavier than the full-size VP9 that we just looked at. And they are very proud of this pistol because in the launch kit that comes with a couple mags, like 2 mags, some spare parts that you probably don't need or won't use, and a holster that may or may not be good. That has an MSRP of $6,200. They are out of their damn minds thinking the gun is worth that much. It's just not. I spent a good amount of time with the standard Alien, and it is very good. But as we demonstrated in that review video back in 2023 that no one watched, you don't need to spend that kind of money to be accurate or fast. You just don't. And if I was spending that much cash and I wanted an Alien, I would go get the regular version, have a competition gun, and call it good. I never would carry a $6,000 pistol every day unless I had F-off money, F-U money, whatever, and didn't care. I would love to get your thoughts on this whole thing. Would you ever carry it? Do you think it's actually worth the cash? That's a tough one. Oh, and I put a poll up over the weekend asking if you guys would like to see the return of our segment called Friendly Fire. It's where I answer your questions right here on TGC News. And overwhelmingly, you guys said, yes, bring it back. So put your questions down in the comments, and I will pick one to answer next week.